Welcome to this week's WCPO High School Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Dyer. Week 4 of the Ohio high school football season is upon us. We're going to recount that big Princeton victory over Colerain last week, 41-37 at Colerain. First time the Vikings have defeated the Cardinals since 1997. Also, a conversation I had with OHSAA Executive Director Doug Ute. You don't want to miss that. This High School Insider Podcast is presented by our local Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Chick-fil-A restaurants, where the play of the game is always chicken. Log into the Chick-fil-A app for easy contactless ordering. But first, the big news on Monday night, Cincinnati Public Schools Board of Education voted to allow athletics to resume this week. Non-contact sports are able to fully compete with intra-district competition for contact sports such as football and soccer. And football and soccer will be able to fully compete the week of September 21st. I want to make sure you check out my story on WCPO.com. I did update it on Tuesday as football teams start to mobilize to make their schedules within the Cincinnati Public Schools District for this week, and then also having full competition next week. Well, the Ohio High School Athletic Association introduced a new executive director on September 8th. Former coach, superintendent, and athletic administrator Doug Ute was named the 11th leader of the OHSAA in its 113-year history. He was able to meet with the statewide media last Wednesday, September 9th, and I had a chance to sit down and talk to him one-on-one, an exclusive for the WCPO High School Insider Podcast. Doug, thanks for joining me, first of all.
Well, thank you, Mike. It's 2 days in a row I get a chance to talk to you and get to know you. Thanks.
Well, I wanted to get to know you a little bit more, and our audience obviously very curious here in the Southwest District and Cincinnati specifically. Tell us a little bit about, we have the bio, we have the everything that was put out in the press release, but maybe at the heart of things, just before we kind of go into OHSAA stuff, just give us a little bit of background on yourself and, obviously your resume and everything speaks for itself, but why you wanted this position and a little bit about your passion for high school sports.
Sure. Well, first of all, I recognize, that when I was younger at Clear Fork High School in Richland County and involved in sports, the development that I was able to receive and the leadership from our coaches and our athletic director back in the late 70s and up and through 1980 when I graduated high school, it defined a lot of things that I am and put a lot of good habits in me, from a leadership capacity to work ethic, but it taught me how to be a good teammate. And I recognized that that's what sports did for me. And then on into college at Ashland, just being a good teammate, because I think that's important in life. And then as I began coaching and teaching, back in the mid 80s, I took that through and tried to instill that in the young people that I coached. And so I'm very passionate about extracurricular activities, and then certainly as a superintendent, not limited to just sports, but what life after 3 o'clock does for students in this country, and not just the state of Ohio, but life after 3 o'clock and how important those programs are for the development of our young people in this country is just it's incredible.
We have 815 member high schools in the OHSAA, 760 7th and 8th grade schools. Basic question for you, but why is there such a passion for high school sports in the state of Ohio?
I think a lot of people recognize the things that I mentioned before. I know, just being around, and I think we've really learned that the last 5 or 6 months, or not necessarily learned it, but probably it's been larger for us to sit in front of us to see, because I was at a school district that our girls won the regional title on a Friday night and lost the opportunity to compete the next weekend. And I saw what it did to them, but I also saw what it means, because life's full of disappointments, and that was a lesson for them. And they came from a good program with a good coach and a good athletic director in Newark and a great community that helped them through that. And so I think that part of that, the way they handled it, is just because of the type of program they've been in for a few years. And I saw that development, but I also saw that disappointment. And then I saw that disappointment of students who didn't get an opportunity to participate in the spring. And, I share with people all the time, when I was 9 years old and it rained, or a Little League game out, I cried, so just I couldn't imagine being 16, 17 years old and losing an opportunity not to play a high school baseball game or season from that standpoint. And with that, the challenge that we had then in June when students started coming back, I saw that excitement in them of coming back and being around their peers and their coaches and being part of something, and which has led into the August time frame, and just being able to compete right now is just something that I think I know I have a deeper appreciation for, and I'm sure that many of our students do, our coaches do, and certainly our parents and family members who are getting a chance to watch them play. And then there is still the disappointment of those who still can't get into a game, who had gone to a football game every Friday night in the fall for forever, because it's such a big part of what we do in our communities from that standpoint. And so, that's why it's important for us to keep our kids competing in a safe environment. So we can, they can get the benefit of that.
You've done a lot of media interviews the past 24 hours. I'm just curious, what's been some of the most unique questions you've received from? Has it been pretty much a similar theme all throughout?
Yeah, I think it has been. What's your focus and those kind of things. And my focus, Mike, is just joining this team here that's done such a wonderful job since last spring. I commend the folks here at the state office who have just, come up with creative things and really put a focus on, Bob Goldring did a wonderful job leading this organization through the summer. And that's evident just by us being able to compete this fall. And so, that's something that I want to keep emphasizing, is how well these folks here have done during this time with working with the governor's office and the lieutenant governor and the Department of Health. And because all of us have the same mission, it is to get our kids in front of it. And I don't want to just limit it to the athletic piece. I know that there are marching band competitions that have been canceled for students in the band and those type of things. And are those students getting a chance to play in front of communities and those type of things. And so, ROTC programs have had. So really, when you look at the total, all the programs that a school offers, it's important that we just, we all work together and keep that gate open so that they can do that.
I think you were quoted in the Marion newspaper saying, you were ready for this position almost 30 years in the making. When you look at all this, obviously the financial challenges that are ahead, I think the Columbus Dispatch said something about OHSAA is in a financial headlock, with coming with a Category 5 hurricane with all this. When you see all this stuff and everybody's talked about all about the challenges, does that motivate you? Does that inspire you more? I mean, give us a sense of what you're thinking right now, giving the onslaught of challenges that even, Steve Blackledge of the Columbus Dispatch says even that your 10 predecessors didn't have to deal with this severe of a challenge.
Yeah.
What's your approach to all this stuff?
Well, I told the staff here, and so one of the things I would tell you is that I'm not diving in the deep end and swimming in the deep water where we're going to drown. And so we're going to get in the shallow end of the pool and gradually work to the deep end. And what that means for me is we're going to take baby steps, but we can't operate the way we've operated in the past. It's a different time. And I brought this up a few times. We're one of the very few states that do not charge a membership fee to belong to the organization. So if school district A is paying $200 to enter into a cross-country invitation in the fall, and they get in 4 of those, but they enter our tournaments for free. And so that's one of the challenges that we need to look at financially is it a membership fee, a one-time membership fee per year to join, or do we charge by sports? And that's an example of cost of doing business is a lot more than it was a few years ago. We know that. And so I know that as a school superintendent for 20 years, we're in a financial challenging time here for us, but so aren't a lot of the school districts in Ohio who have been cut from budgets simply because the revenue from the state has been cut to them. And so there's a lot of challenges for schools and organizations right now and communities from that standpoint. So we're looking at, from a revenue standpoint. An example might be, I've used this a few times the last couple of days. Our Wright State has been a great place to host state volleyball. They've done a wonderful job. It's a great partnership for us, and it's a great venue for our student athletes and our communities to come into. But does it make sense from a venue standpoint, financial standpoint this year, to look at those venues if we can only put 300 family and loved ones in there? And so we need to look at that from an expense side too right now, and everything we've done. And there's already been some changes here in the office prior to my arrival, from an expense standpoint to try to match our expenses and our revenues right now. And so those are some things that we're looking at.
What about the communication link with member schools? I mean, how do you approach that? Do you have a vision for how you maybe plan to reach out to districts? Because obviously a very diverse state when it comes to Northern Ohio, Southern Ohio, East, West, all that sort of thing. What is your plan for maybe reaching out to some of those athletic administrators as well?
I certainly want to connect with all of our groups out there, and either through surveys or, in today's times, you can't drive around the state and meet with the Kiwanis of Lima because everybody, I'm a Rotarian in Newark, and we've met remotely for that time. So, I may be joining some remote things from that standpoint, but I think it's important for all of our associations, the Coaches Association, the Athletic Administrator Association, Officials Association, and superintendents, principals, those associations, that we communicate with them and share with them what we've done with our expenses and revenues here, where we're headed. I think Tim Street and Bob Goldring do a very good job with communication out to the schools, and so. But we're certainly going to want some input as we go around around the state a little bit, and those different groups on their thoughts on, as I just mentioned, like venues and things like that.
What about just in a public venue, just with your leadership style? Your predecessor, very active on social media, very had a public persona about him. What is your style in regards to that? When it's media interviews or just being at state championship games, that sort of thing. What's that going to be like?
Yeah, well, I'm very visible, and it'll be different for me because you're talking about a state now instead of a school district. But I think the folks in Newark or at Marion Elgin would tell you, hey, I see Doug everywhere, just because I support our students and our coaches and our advisors and that. But so I'll be visible and approachable and engaged. And there's a difference between being visible and engaged. So I think I'm visible and I'm engaged, and certainly would talk to the folks of the media at any time. Those type of things. I've in the past have I believe social media is a great place to push information out. But maybe it's because Mike, I don't want to get bugged on when the first snowflake flew from 6,500 kids saying we should have a snow day. So I certainly I'm not active on those social media sites, and personally for me it's a place to push information out to, give folks an avenue to ask questions, but certainly for me not in a discussion type of a thing from that way on social media.
It's hard to remove the COVID-19 pandemic from this spring, this summer, this going into this fall, but had a conversation with Julian Tackett at Kentucky High School Athletic Association last week. I just kind of asked him, bigger picture, if you look beyond this stuff, I know it's hard to do right now. It's hard to look beyond an hour or two from now, but there were so many discussions leading into the pandemic about high school sports, its status, its role within each state association. I know the National Federation has come out with figures about participation over the years, that sort of thing. But where do you think we're headed with high school sports in general? We talk about, we talked about the club influence, AAU influence, competitive balance. I mean, there's so many different issues. I realize you have to address what is at the forefront right now with the association. But where do you think high school sports is right now? Where is it headed?
Yeah, I certainly feel it's headed in a great direction. I still feel that it is the thing to do in a community, or most communities. And there are other opportunities now. I mean, attendance has gone down in most communities on Friday nights at the football or basketball games from that standpoint. But I do still think that it is the number one thing in sports that people value. My kids participated in AAU and travel baseball and club volleyball and those things, and they were great for their development. They were around great people, but it wasn't as important as that school sport. And I have 4 kids that participated at Elgin in many sports, and so I know that I still believe that for families, that's that league championship, that district championship is more important than that all-day Saturday club volleyball, win from that standpoint. So I think that people value high school sports, and most people recognize what it does for their child from those type of standpoints. So and again, with this pandemic, I would just tell you that I think in many areas, whether it be sports or whatever, I'll speak from a school perspective. We got thrown into online learning in April and May, and that was a big challenge. And I'll speak for the Newark City schools. Our teachers rose up and did things that they didn't think they could do prior to the pandemic. And I think that's true in a lot of schools if you look across Ohio. And then moving forward, whether you're in virtual learning now, or you're in a blended model, or you're in, and most folks are at least in some form of blended model, if not all virtual right now, it looks different than it did in April and May, and it's better because you had more time to prepare. And I think athletics will be that same way. We are learning things every Friday. An example would be through our Observer program that Bob Goldring had put in with Bo Rugg here, and I was just listening to a conversation yesterday. We're getting feedback from the athletic administrators in the state, and getting feedback from the observers, and that feedback can only lead to getting better every week out there on that. And so I do think we'll get better with this virus going forward throughout the year, and so we'll just have to keep evaluating week to week, day to day, and because that safety is our number one concern, not just with our office here, it is with our member schools, and it certainly is with the governor's office and the Department of Health. Safety is the number one concern, that we keep our athletes safe, our coaches safe, our officials safe, and then their family and loved ones that are able to go see the games. And so, and I think we're better now than we were last spring at that.
What is your style like, Doug, in terms of, you have a lot on your plate. You mentioned starting out in the shallow part of the pool here, but, you hear a lot about leaders that, early risers, or they stay late, or, attached to their phone all the time, or where are you at with all your style of managing and leading?
Yeah. Well, I think it's the technology, and I remember being a principal before we had cell phones, and you could actually go to the state tournament and come back on Monday and find out what went on Friday. And then that's changed. You know what went on by halftime of the first game back in your building. And so it's just that accessibility, and I'm accessible 24/7, as a superintendent I was, and I will be here. in this position, keeping in mind that we all have families and those type of things. I think my leadership style is, and that's one thing that I'm comfortable with coming into this organization, because I do feel we have some really good leaders that our sport administrators and our senior directors here are very good leaders. And my style is, and I would just say this to you, I didn't want to be the high school principal at Newark High School. I wanted Tom Bowman, our high school principal, to do that, and I want Tom to lead that. And I'll carry that same philosophy in here. I'm sitting here in Tim's office. I don't want to be the communication director for the OHSAA. I want Tim Street to do that, and I want Tim to lead. And I'm going to support Tim and help Tim grow, because I'll grow at the same time. Professional growth is very important to me, from that standpoint. And so I want to grow every year, and I want our leaders to grow every year. And, I'm big on attitude and environment. That's very important to me. And so we're going to do some things with the staff here that everybody should want to go to work. And when they get in their car, just can't wait to get there. And when they put their foot out, just be so happy. And I had that philosophy as a school administrator, is that I wanted our parents to deliver their students to our building, and I wanted our principals out front communicating with the parents, talking, welcoming students in. And, I want those kind of friendly environments. I want it to be the place to be. So that's a little bit about what's important to me as a leader.
And finally, Doug, maybe a little bit about yourself, former basketball standout there at Clear Fork High School. And I know you're a Cleveland Indians fan. If you're not in the OHSAA realm of things, what is Doug Ute doing in his free time?
I have 8 grandchildren. And so one of the neat things that I started doing as a former coach and stuff that I did, I have I had a 4th and 5th grade granddaughters who played travel basketball, and my daughter was coaching them with some other folks. And so I hopped into that last year and just had a ball coaching youth sports. And so I hope to continue to be able to do that. But a lot of my time is centered around sports. I have to admit to you that I still get depressed for a little bit after the Browns lose. Those things are important to me. Browns, Indians, Cavs, and Buckeyes. And so one of the things that I do, I think I've been to 18 major league parks in the country. And my goal is to get to all of them from that standpoint. And if I go somewhere, and I might route my trip around seeing the Lakers play in LA, which I did last year. I've seen some PGA things. So, something that somebody wouldn't know about me that I do is if I have to go somewhere, then I look at the sports thing and try to go to that sports venue and just experience that. I've seen a golf match at Riviera Country Club in LA and didn't go for that reason, but routed around there. So my goal is to get to as many sport venues as I can and watch. And I just have a ball when I do that.
Which one's next on your bucket list, whether that's a ballpark or an arena?
Oh boy, I want to. Yeah, I want to see the Duke Carolina game at Duke when it means something, and it means something every year. I know that, but I mean, that's been on my list for a long, long time, and so things like that. I'm a big Buckeye fan, but I love the Duke Carolina rivalry that they have. That really interests me, and so I want to see a Buckeye game at the Big House and up north, and those kind of things. So
maybe down here at Franklin High School, our former standout Luke Kennard, maybe he can get you some connection down there to Cameron Indoor Stadium. Go. So we'll work on that.
You should have told me that, because now I know you probably know Luke, so now I'm going to.
Yes, I do.
Contact you to contact Luke, and
there we go.
Get me in there. Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, he is. His dad still lives in the area, and very prideful community there in Franklin, Ohio for Luke Kennard. Mr. Basketball signs as you enter the town and everything like that. So good stuff. OHSAA Executive Director Doug Ute, really appreciate the time and conversation, and all the best to you and everybody there in the office there in Columbus.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and appreciate talking to you the last couple of days, and I'd love to come on again anytime that you want to talk about what's going on, and we'd love to join your program.
Thank you, Doug. Well, as you can tell, OHSAA Executive Director Doug Ute has a lot on his plate during this COVID-19 pandemic, not only with scheduling and state finals venues, a lot of logistics around all the fall sports season, let alone the winter sports season, which is upcoming, but also the significant financial challenges around the state governing body for high school athletics. So we're going to continue to follow that for you. I want to remind everybody that this High School Insider podcast is presented by our local Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Chick-fil-A restaurants, where the winning play is free chicken. Log into the Chick-fil-A app for easy contactless ordering. But now I had a chance to catch up with Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels after the Vikings' significant 41-37 win at Colerain on Friday night. It was the first time the Vikings defeated Colerain since 1997 when Mike Daniels was in 7th grade.
Man, that was a wild one. It really was. You talk about back and forth. I thought Colerain did a phenomenal job finding formations, hitting their stuff. They had a great game plan from an offensive standpoint, and they were tough. They adjusted to our inside zone. But what you saw is it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds in terms of our mistakes. And I think they went up 17 in the fourth, right? And it looked bleak for a while. But what we've been preaching this whole offseason is for us to be able to truly make the next jump in our program, is we're going to have to gut it out and grind it out. And so the kids gritted their teeth, right? And they kept fighting. The same things we've been preaching and preaching and preaching. And so I'm extremely proud of them, but because I think this was that turning stone in the program to where, hey, we're down. But what we see now after 3 games, we've had to come back each game. In the fourth quarter, we were down and win a ball game. It shows the resilience of these kids and that they're buying into the system, buying into the program. So extremely proud of them. I love them all. We're going to enjoy this because it's been a long time, since 1997 or 8, which is a long time. And so I'm extremely proud of the kids. I'm extremely proud of the coaching staff. Extremely proud of our community and our fans for just sticking in there and grinding. And it's a great day to be a freaking Viking. I was in middle school, so that's a long time. We came close in my year in 01. We came close in 11, but close but no cigar. So I'm, again, extremely proud. This is a big moment because we know what Colerain stands for. They've been the standard in the GMC. A lot of respect for the coaching staff and their players. They do a phenomenal job coaching those kids up, and that run that they've had over the years has been phenomenal. And so this is a big deal, and I'm not going to act like it's not. It's a big deal for our program, for the psyche, for everything that we're trying to do and build. So very excited.
Well, you could tell how much this meant to Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels. I had a chance to catch up with his quarterback, junior Makai Lynn, who's an outstanding passer, runner. He could do a lot of things with the football. Already has scholarship offers from UC and Indiana, and he talked about the significance of the Vikings winning at Cardinal Stadium.
Like when you're hungry, when you want it bad enough, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get it. So when it's down to the last second or that last play, that shows your heart. That shows who you really are. That's when the true football player comes out of you. So as long as we keep playing like this, we can win a state championship and come over the ring.
Well, obviously, the Greater Miami Conference has a much different complexion with its football landscape this year, as Colerain has won 20 consecutive GMC titles, but certainly Lakota West, Princeton, and there's some other teams involved there that will have a say in the crown for division title. A lot of good games for you on this week's schedule for week 4. We're going to continue to follow that. Also, we'll have the latest for you on Cincinnati Public Schools allowing athletics to resume starting this week. That's all we have for you this week. We will talk to you next week right here on the WCPO High School Insider. Well, as you can tell, OHSAA Executive Director Doug Ute has a lot on his plate during this COVID-19 pandemic, not only with scheduling and state finals venues, a lot of logistics around all the fall sports season, let alone the winter sports season, which is upcoming, but also the significant financial challenges around the state governing body for high school athletics. So we're going to continue to follow that for you. I want to remind everybody that this High School Insider podcast is presented by our local Greater Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky Chick-fil-A restaurants, where the winning play is free chicken. Log into the Chick-fil-A app for easy contactless ordering. But now I had a chance to catch up with Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels after the Vikings' significant 41-37 win at Colerain on Friday night. It was the first time the Vikings defeated Colerain since 1997 when Mike Daniels was in 7th grade.
Man, that was a wild one. It really was. I mean, you talk about back and forth. I thought Colerain did a phenomenal job finding formations, hitting their stuff. They had a great game plan from an offensive standpoint, and they were tough. They adjusted to our inside zone. But what you saw is it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds in terms of our mistakes. And I think they went up 17 in the fourth, right? And it looked bleak for a while. But what we've been preaching this whole offseason is for us to be able to truly make the next jump in our program, is we're going to have to gut it out and grind it out. And so the kids gritted their teeth, right? And they kept fighting. The same things we've been preaching and preaching and preaching. And so I'm extremely proud of them, but because I think this was that turning stone in the program to where, hey, we're down. But what we see now after 3 games, we've had to come back each game. In the fourth quarter, we were down and win a ball game. It shows the resilience of these kids and that they're buying into the system, buying into the program. So extremely proud of them. I love them all. We're going to enjoy this because it's been a long time, since 1997 or 8, which is a long time. And so I'm extremely proud of the kids. I'm extremely proud of the coaching staff. Extremely proud of our community and our fans for just sticking in there and grinding. And it's a great day to be a freaking Viking. I was in middle school, so I mean that's a long time. We came close in my year in 01. We came close in 11, but close but no cigar. So I'm, again, extremely proud. This is a big moment because we know what Colerain stands for. They've been the standard in the GMC. A lot of respect for the coaching staff and their players. They do a phenomenal job coaching those kids up, and that run that they've had over the years has been phenomenal. And so this is a big deal, and I'm not going to act like it's not. It's a big deal for our program, for the psyche, for everything that we're trying to do and build. So very excited.
Well, you could tell how much this meant to Princeton head football coach Mike Daniels. I had a chance to catch up with his quarterback, junior Makai Lynn, who's an outstanding passer, runner. He could do a lot of things with the football. Already has scholarship offers from UC and Indiana, and he talked about the significance of the Vikings winning at Cardinal Stadium.
Like when you're hungry, when you want it bad enough, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get it. So when it's down to the last second or that last play, that shows your heart. That shows who you really are. That's when the true football player comes out of you. You know. So as long as we keep playing like this, we can win a state championship and come over the ring.
Well, obviously the Greater Miami Conference has a much different complexion with its football landscape this year, as Colerain has won 20 consecutive GMC titles, but certainly Lakota West, Princeton, and there's some other teams involved there that will have a say in the crown for division title. A lot of good games for you on this week's schedule for week 4. We're going to continue to follow that. Also, we'll have the latest for you on Cincinnati Public Schools allowing athletics to resume starting this week. That's all we have for you this week. We will talk to you next week right here on the WCPO High School Insider.